Okay, so the second week in our series, continuing of the topic interracial relationships, we are going to talk about the topic of racism within the relationship. Um, this is more relevant for the couples that are, I was going to say the couples that are not of the same race, but that pretty much defines interracial relationship. So yeah, we're going to talk about like what it's like being in an interracial relationship and having to have that racism conversation, because especially with Black Lives Matter, it has come up, at least in our me and Camille's respective relationships. So we are going to talk about what that looked like in the heat of things.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my interracial relationship, just to clarify, again, for those who don't know, my boyfriend is Caucasian, so he's white. Um, yeah, I mean, being in an interracial relationship, you like to assume a lot of things. Um, I think the biggest assumption is that they're going to stand up for you, they're going to be there for you. They understand that you know, it's you guys against the world, kind of, right? Like kind of mentality. But in the heat of Black Lives Matter and everything going on and seeing all the different memes that people were posting and stuff like that, it just kind of really made me feel like I had to speak up within my relationship just to clarify some things and also be like open up to the discussion to see if he had any questions. And some of the things that we talked about were, or that I felt like I had to bring up, were just understanding that he's going to be raising Black kids because, I mixed babies are like always like a hot topic for whatever reason, but I don't think that people realize, like, at the end of the day, like, you are going to be the father of a black man, you know what I mean, or a Black woman. Like, that's really what it is. Like, are you okay with the fact that your kids will never be seen as white? They'll always be seen as whatever I am, always, but they'll never be seen as white. It doesn't matter how light skinned they are, they're not going to be seen as white. So that was a conversation that I had to have with him, which may seem silly to some people listening, but I've heard a lot, like, and Justin obviously was fine with it. He's like, yes, I know, like, I'm not stupid, but like, I just felt like it was like we had to talk about it because I've been hearing a lot of interesting conversations happening between friends of mine or just in general online between interracial couples. And I just don't think that the weight of the responsibility is a common knowledge. At some point, Justin is going to have a conversation. Should I bear a son about, interactions with the cops or law enforcement, right? Um, or to his Black daughter about unjust wages in the workplace, not just because she's a woman, but also because she's a minority or a person of color, right? Um, yeah, like that's just some of the things that we had to kind of deep dive into and just kind of like air out, because those conversations are gonna happen anyway in the future. But I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page and check in, because at the end of the day, I could love this person, but if we're not on the same page and I know he's not gonna stand up for me or be there in the way that I need him to be for our kids, then I'm kind of wasting my time. Another thing that I had to talk to him about was, not saying that this has happened, but should someone say something off-colored, no pun intended, to me, like his mother or his father or brother or whatever, my expectation is that he would take my side and stand up for me, because that is the right thing to do. Not because I'm trying to fight, but because I deserve to be respected. That's really what it comes down to. We spoke about that, and I also spoke to him about me standing my ground should someone say something ill-intentioned.
Were there
So
any like indications that that could happen from his friends or family for you to be like, oh, this is something that I'm just going to bring up and make clear right now?
Not specifically from his family. I would say that there's like people like family adjacent, like family friends that I don't know that well. And sometimes like would make like a stupid joke, like just generally not directed at me or even at Black people, but just like they'll say off-colored things, maybe about another race or just maybe like about women or whatever. And
Yeah.
people that Justin, like realistically, like I know it's not a problem. They're not in his bloodline. There's no reason that he wouldn't defend me, but I just made it very clear that, I'm not here for any of that. And I know he's not either, but like in like it's time to start to change the narrative, and that's what we're here to do. And I think that's kind of the biggest reason why, like apart from wanting to be on the same page, like I just wanted to clarify, like I'm here to start to change the narrative. I'm not going to just sit down and like shrug my shoulders or pretend I didn't hear something, like, just to keep everyone in the room comfortable, because I'm not fucking comfortable. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
How did he take those conversations? Like, was he uncomfortable or?
Um, no, he wasn't uncomfortable. I think for him, if you know Justin, then you know his reaction, like, is just really like yeah, duh, like of course, like this, like you don't
Yeah.
have to say these things, like we've been together for 6 years. But again, like I just didn't want to make those assumptions. I know that there's a lot of people out there who are in interracial relationships having the same conversations, but there's a little bit more tension because what guy wants to stand up to his mother, or what woman wants
Right.
to stand up to her father? You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you saw the series Love is Blind on Netflix, but there's one actually there were a couple interracial couples, but one Black and white couple specifically, where the woman was Black and the man was white, and part of the woman's fear was her father's reaction to bringing home a white guy. She's a daddy's girl and stuff like that, so she was terrified, petrified of having to potentially stand up to her father, because she was really like, seeking that approval. So, I know that there's tension there, or for most people. His
Yeah.
his father was obviously just very welcoming. It was just like, I really just care about whether or not you treat my daughter with respect. And he did ask him, like, have you ever been in a room full of Black people? Like, would that make you uncomfortable? To which Cameron was
Yeah.
like, like just little things that you probably don't think about. This guy
Yeah.
has experience with dating Black women in the past, and like has been around Black people, like a room of Black people, has no problem with it, has, very cultured guy. So it wasn't an issue. But like those are the types of questions that have to be asked, because, family function, we're not going to play like whatever music, I don't know, like especially here in Canada, we have a lot of um people from Jamaica, Trinidad, and the music that they play,
Right.
reggae, soca. Are you going to be okay with that? Like it's loud, it's out there, it's fun, it's high intensity, high energy. Like, is your family going to be cool with that?
Right.
Like with this carnival style like lunch or birthday that we're going to have? The answer is not always yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So they don't know that this is a thing until they experience it and then kind of make their decision then. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's definitely worth, like, those topics are definitely worth bringing up. Um, but I think it's educating yourself about the other's culture, but not like passively and actively, right? So um, like personally, I don't think there's necessarily a reason to until you're in the situation. So for example, when Anon came with me to Taiwan, he had to learn the culture and learn some like differences in um, culture, differences in communication, the no handshake thing, but like a slight bow thing. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the things that he would not have been exposed to, nor have thought to have asked until he experienced it. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I'm learning about your culture. And it's the same thing with me. Like, I think growing up in the US and having been exposed to different races, I can become ignorant to the deeper experience of African Americans or Black people or even immigrants. And especially with Black Lives Matter, like that was a really good opportunity for me to be like, okay, I have to actively like learn stuff about it instead of just passively absorbing the culture. Like now I have to actually learn about the experience. Like, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to learn more about these things that I'm seeing. Like, what is the Black experience? I will never understand that firsthand, but um like let's learn about something that I didn't know. And one thing that was mind-blowing to me, which apparently is a thing that I wouldn't have known about unless had I not dug, but like Black parents have to have a conversation with their young kids about police brutality and about like um coming home alive versus not. And that just blew my mind. And then there were videos about these fathers talking to their like 6-year-old sons about this, you know, like how about racism and how, you know, if you get stopped, what to do. And that was, you know, that was part of the education. But the point is, like, that was among the things that I had to learn that I would not have learned even being in an interracial relationship. So I think there's something to be said about having to be active about it. But yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's part of love, right? It's kind of part of the equation. Like love is, they always say love is an action, love is an action. Like, okay, great. That means different things for every relationship, particularly in an interracial relationship. That means actively learning about the other
right.
person, whatever that may be. In your case, yes, absolutely. It's learning his experience without just asking him, or like you so eloquently put it, out passively learning, you
Right.
know, especially in a state where you guys have the hold your ground law. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Or
Stand your
stand your
ground law.
ground law? Like that's intense. That's a little intense. For those of you who don't
Yeah.
know, that means that they can shoot on sight, like if they feel threatened. Ooh,
Yeah. And that's anyone. It's not just like police. Like if you
yeah.
feel like you're being threatened by someone, you
A
can just shoot them
civilian. Yeah.
and get
Civilian to
off like
civilian, scot free.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like experiences like that or news like that that we can either take for face value and be like, oh, that was like an incident, or we can start to see the pattern and be like, okay, well, maybe my job is to learn a little bit more about what the heck is going on, like why this is a pattern. And yeah, I think I felt for myself as someone in an interracial relationship who does not want to be ignorant or like stupidly ignorant, you know? Like I just felt like I had to learn. And this isn't like a finger pointing thing. It's not saying that you have to, but that's just my experience.
I think you have to. If you want to be, listen, like if you want to, as someone from the other side, I guess, like as the Black person in the relationship, you know, I do think it's important. Like I do my best. I just do my best to learn about the other person in general. So if you're going to
Right.
have, if you're going to accept the responsibility, should you be so blessed to be in an interracial relationship,
Yes.
you like, that is part of the job. That is part of the
Right.
role, not just as your job, like not just as a person in that relationship, but to humanity. You will be raising kids who will be, you know, this mysterious colored, you know, vague ethnicity or ethnically vague like person. Like you
Yeah.
owe it to them. You owe it to them. As a person who grew up in an Asian household, you know, the conversations weren't necessarily about police brutality. But I do remember those conversations that my grandmother, mother, and grandfather had with me on more than one occasion throughout me growing up as a very young child about people treating me differently and looking out for that and making sure that I knew who I was so that I didn't let other people's narratives get to me. Like
Influence. Yeah.
this is like it's real. It's real stuff. And without those conversations, believe me, I would not be where I am today.
Right. Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point about like doing your duty in a relationship, but especially if you are going to have children, because then it extends beyond your own experience and your own understanding, because here is a kid that you've created who is mixed and has to exist in this world as bi, tri, whatever racial combination, and that experience is something you as a parent would never have. So if you're going to have the responsibility of bringing any child into the world, you do need to understand what that's going to entail, and to not try to understand their experience, I feel like is like irresponsible. But I also feel, I mean, I would like to think that those parents do what they can, right? Like, how else do you raise a kid, right? Like, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
what type of
I don't know.
research goes into it anyway, but I
Yeah.
would think those parents would do like an extra layer of research, I guess.
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know parenting doesn't come with a handbook. That's the one thing that I keep hearing, and that everyone's just kind of doing their own thing, which, cool, do whatever works for
Yeah.
you. But I think that's one non negotiable. And
Yeah.
even if you're not in an interracial relationship, like please treat your kids or teach your kids to treat others with respect, to share with people who look different than them. Please make sure that they are exposed to people who look different than them.
Yeah.
That's really fucking important. I see it way too much.
Yeah.
Kids hanging out with one type of kid. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And there's these memes and sayings everywhere saying like, oh, kids aren't born racist. They're taught. Yeah, this is where it starts. Daycare. You're bringing them to an all-white daycare. I don't even know how that's possible.
But like, what if in their community, right? Like, that's all they're exposed to. And the more diverse daycare is like 20 miles out of the way. You know what I
I have,
mean?
I have
It's
so
really
many.
how you surround yourself.
That's the problem, right? Like I think I have so many opinions about that because like I'm not even, I don't want to get into it too much, but like for example, I have, friends who own houses in different parts of the city. Some go to like specifically like cultured areas where they're only around certain types of people. Not to say that their kid goes to a cultured school, it's a regular school, regular public school, but like it's in a known white area, you
Right.
know they moved from an area that was a little more diverse, or actually a lot more diverse, to a white area intentionally, right? So I don't know, like that's a different discussion for a different day, I feel. And I'm not holding it against them, but I do think it's weird.
Yeah.
And then there's me and my other friend who go visit them. My other friend is not white either. We go over there, and we're the only ones in the neighborhood who are not white, so we're going for walks and stuff like that. I don't know, I just think it's weird. And we're the only we're the only people of color that these kids know. That's fucking weird to me. I don't know, but again, conversation for a different day. But
Yeah.
yeah, responsibility is to do as Irene does.
Please do
Honestly.
not hold me to be the standard. I'm just winging it. Also, like,
But you're doing a great job. Like I don't know, man. Like it's the least you could do is ask questions, not to your significant other. Like ask questions outside of that. Like there's like in the age of technology where Google and information is literally seconds away and at your fingertips, like do the work, do the research, and learn. There's tons to read. It's not new,
yeah. Yeah. And I
and it's not
think,
obscure.
no, and I think we both do a good job in doing our homework, but also having those difficult conversations. Because you bringing that up with Justin about his family cannot be an easy conversation. So, um, like relationships are hard. Interracial relationships are, that much harder because there's another layer thing that you have to address and do homework on. And so, yeah,
There's
that's,
that. Just go in with curiosity, guys. Don't assume anything. Just ask questions. If you are going to start these conversations, just ask questions, be open, and go from there.
yeah,
But yeah,
great.
I think that's our time. Okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.